Continuing at the variation movement, let's see. So, well, you can be really consistent with the fingering going 1, 3 to 2, 4. If you don't like the thumb on C sharp, you can do something else. In those kinds of situations, I just ask my body. And in this case, sticking with the 1, 3, 2, 4 really works for me. Here it is. You just have to make sure you've adjusted so that you've optimized. The expression making the best of a bad situation or something like that. That's what you do often. Optimization just involves saying, this may not be my favorite position on the piano, but I can make it the best that position can be. So, making sure your arm delivers your hand at an appropriate angle. For my third finger, so I don't get stuck, I have to have a significant angle there. And to avoid having a twisted hand, make sure that my arm is aligned with my hand as much as possible. So I may lean away from it. It's not hard then. Obviously, this would be much too loud for my partners. For right now, I'm going for the basic coarse gestures. And if I know that that works, I can always refine it. And on another piano, I can refine it still further. Page turn. I say I've circled in the past these chords because they're still in the treble clef and they involve a hand crossing. So again, it's the sort of thing with all these white notes. The top two notes of an A7th chord, they're very easy to execute if you know where you are. Much harder if you're looking for where you want to be. And again, Beethoven plays a repeated note, but he doesn't really mean it as a repeated note because that's the end of spelling out of the C, of the D chord. Then he makes this little scale. So, and then you start. This is continuous. So, because there's a subito piano, we have to choose because my partners come in on the last eighth note. Either they're going to have to wait for me to get a subito piano, or I'm going to compromise a little and make a diminuendo so that the subito piano works out comfortably and in time, which is probably what I'll do. I could go 1/4, and I might, but I have very limited time. So I could go to 5/2, which is more comfortable, and even though I then have to shift, maybe the comfort is in my best interest. Right now, that's when I have to moving towards it. Depends on if I decide I want a little time. My partners are playing the downbeat and not the note after, so that's a finish. So that's probably what I'm going to do. Completely parallel from black to white. Interestingly here, Beethoven writes an inherently non-pianistic thing. The third up here on G, B, and then down here a second inversion D chord, which I could either play with the thumb, or which I usually prefer to play with a 2 because it's easier to grab. It's more comfortable for my hand. So I go from 1, 2 to 2 again. I can do that. I might choose, weirdly enough, so that I don't duplicate the 2. I might choose to go 1, 3, keep my hand compact. And it's actually just a little bit faster to have my third finger on the wrong side of my second finger, but keeping my hand comfortable. So I'm going to notate that because I wouldn't do that without consciousness. In other words, I would certainly tend to go to 1, 2. It's right there, but it's just that much harder to get to that next chord. Again, it's my body leading my mind, not the other way around here. So it takes that writing because my body doesn't want to do it without foreknowledge that it's going to be in its best interest later on. So. I mentioned this when we first explored this passage. The right hand is all in offbeats, 16th rest, then it comes in 8th notes. The left hand is all over the place. And occasionally a big lead. Almost always, my general strategy will approach these isolated fifth fingers from my body. I'll come away from the keyboard so I can deliver, my arm can deliver my hand and finger to those bass notes. It also benefits me to be able to see what I'm doing, especially, not that I need it all the time, but especially because there's so many white notes. The tendency is that I'll get sloppy down there. So that means I need to know what my right hand is doing. I'm pausing a lot, but those pauses are mental breaths. They're designed to make sure that when I go ahead, I know more or less what I'm doing. If I just tried to play it either too quickly or too mechanically slowly, in either case I wouldn't get a sense of a flow. And what I want is, even if it's in minute little gestures, a sense of the idiomatic nature of what I'm trying to accomplish. So if it doesn't feel idiomatic, if it doesn't feel comfortable, I don't want to learn it. Now, these are all Ds, so I'm going to spend all my attention on my left hand, and I just have to tell myself that how the melody goes. And sometimes you have to force yourself. Your eye will want to go where your ear is listening. And in this case, I force myself not to look at the right-hand part in the score. And here, I need to know that I'm no longer playing octaves, so. Fingering, not just the grouping, but the choreography. The ins and outs, the changes in sensation of the black and white relationships are what give me either a sense of comfort or a sense of awkwardness. So. And particularly that F-sharp thumb note. I notice my body does not want to go down to the F-sharp. Doesn't want to go down to my fifth finger. So, interestingly enough, instead of going down to the fifth finger, I have decided to start the group with the fifth finger. So now go here, now go. It immediately changes my sense of simplicity of thought and simplicity of gesture. It's that kind of openness to serendipitous experiences that makes a lot of practice work, as opposed to sort of doggedly making sure that your first thought of how something works is the way you're going to pursue it. So, now here, now here, now here. And those really are delicious little tosses to here and here. So, in fact, finishing this off, white to white note, now black out octave. Now here, now here, now here, and so on. When the right hand changes. Thumb right next door. So I simply have to be aware of it and move in. In other words, whenever something is ever so slightly off or not comfortable, there's always a reason for it. It's not that you didn't persevere enough, it's not that you didn't concentrate hard enough, it's that there is inherently something, even if it's minutely, challenging about it. So you have to address the challenge, find out what you can do to optimize your response. 7th arpeggio finger would be to go 4. Should work. On the other hand, if I remember correctly from my youth, it's not sure I want it. I might do it using the standard chord fingering rather than the standard arpeggio fingering, namely with the finger more involved. So the jury's out. To give myself a clearer shot of delivering my arm to that 5th finger key. Changing the angle to sharp, always slightly uncomfortable. If I insist on doing that, I'll come out more on my 4th finger and deliver my 5th with my arm, rather than allowing myself to be squished in there. An alternative is to simply use a longer finger on the F sharp, keep my 5th finger on the G, and I think that's where I'm going. Maybe even the 3rd finger to make my hand be as balanced as possible. And then toss my hand for this ascent. Pattern, so I need a fingering here. This is easy. So I investigate various possibilities. The one that comes to mind, again, from my old schooling, it's easier to get to the thumb on a white note if there's a convenient way of reaching to the black note without strain. So if I go up the tritone, G to C sharp, on 5-2, and I get into the D major fingering rather easily. So that's what I'm going to do. Never wrote it down before, never thought of it before, so thank you for being there. Makes a huge difference. Primo. Let's see what else, not musically, but technically. Is up ahead. Again, I try to optimize the comfort of my hand for each of these chords. Trying to save space. Again, to get these leaps, my attention attention definitely has to go to where the big leap in the left hand is. I will tell my partners what I need. More than anything, is having the visual awareness and the strategy available. It's not hard, it just requires a certain strategy. Just checking for a challenge. I'm playing much faster than again, these are obviously I things. This wonderful transition going to the last movement. With an attacker, but we'll stop here.